Welcome to the Avatar series, part number 9. Today we will discuss Kapila-avatāra. We will hear about the appearance and the teachings of Lord Kapila. This form of Krishna or Vishnu is to be found in the 3rd canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And in connection to that, we will hear today also again more clearly about the motives or the purpose behind the appearance of Krishna. He states in the Bhagavad Gita, Yada yada hidaramasya pranipravadipārata apritanam ataramasya tadatmanam srijamyaham, that in different ages or over time, religious principles will diminish or will get lost. And he says whenever irreligion becomes more prominent, then he comes to re-establish what is true dharma or religion. And this happens age after age. So it's a repeated process. And so different forms of Krishna also have the task to re-establish transcendental knowledge, as you would say, or a particular yoga process that is suitable for the people of a given time, of a given area, of a given culture. So Kapila-avatāra is known for his Sankhya philosophy, and the 3rd canto deals elaborately with Kapila-avatāra's appearance and also his teachings. We will hear today half of it is about the whole appearance story, which is very interesting. We will read a few verses and also some purports from our spiritual master Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and then hear also about the Sankhya philosophy as it was taught by the Sri Kapila-avatāra. Yes, as already pointed out in previous sessions when it was about the appearance of Krishna or Vishnu, there is always a certain evidence required to accept Vishnu as like an avatar as such. And one aspect is that there are parents that are being mentioned in the Shastras, in this case meaning the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the parents of Kapila-avatāra are Devahuti and Kardama Muni. They have a very divine origin. Kardama Muni comes actually directly or almost directly in the line of Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma, when he started manifesting living entities, he manifested from his face or from his lips the Brahmins, or those souls who are supposed to have transcendental knowledge, who by nature are self-realized. So Kardama Muni is coming from there, and Devahuti being the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu. Swayambhu is the name of Lord Brahma, meaning the unborn, and Swayambhuva is practically the son also of Brahma, and he is a Manu. Manu means father of mankind. So all these personalities were so-called Prajapatis. Prajapati means Praja are living entities or like a population, and Pati is the father. So they father actually population that populates then the universe or like particular globe. So in Swayambhuva Manu had a daughter named Devahuti, and for any father, and not just in the Vedic society, in any society, at some point there is a concern, okay, to get the daughter married. I mean, nowadays, in modern days, that might not be such a big thing anymore, because rather the children choose themselves when, how, and whom to marry. But still, in case where this tradition is still intact, then of course the fathers, they have more concern, particularly in India. This is much more prominent still than in other countries. So he was informed about Kardama Muni as a great personality, and also Devahuti heard actually from the sage Narada about Kardama Muni's glories and character, and she got very much attached simply by hearing about that. So she was very much inclined to marry that sage. And Swayambhuva Manu chose to appear at the hermitage of Kardama Muni. Kardama Muni is a Brahmin and great sage, lived very simple. He lived practically in the forest. He had a simple hut and he performed his yajna. He was very renounced. At the same time, a very sublime person. Whereas Devahuti, belonging to the Kshatriya caste, or like Varna, was of course accustomed to a much higher standard of living. Also accompanied by her mother and father. The mother of Devahuti is Shatarupa, the wife of Swayambhuva Manu, and of course they had their servants with them, soldiers and riches and so on and so on. So she was rather from a different from background, but according to Vedic system, it is still appropriate that a woman from a lower Varna can marry a man from a higher Varna. The other way around is not working. So in this case, there would be, there's Aniloma and Pratiloma. These are the terms for describing what kind of marriage is approved in the context of the Vedic scriptures. And Kardama Muni as a Brahmana could marry a Kshatriya woman, in this case Devahuti. If he would be the Kshatriya and she the Brahmana wife, a woman, it would not work. It would not be approved, at least. So Swayambhuva Manu offered his daughter to Kardama Muni. There was a long and deep conversation about it, actually, about some principles. And Kardama Muni chose to agree because he also saw, hey, this is a very excellent spouse. She's also extremely beautiful, very sublime, very capable. There's also the term Yoga Lakshana is mentioned in regards to Devahuti. It means that she was also very much equipped with transcendental potency or like a mystic power also. So she was a good match for Kardama Muni, and it was agreed that they marry under one condition. The condition came from Kardama Muni. He said, I will marry her under the condition that when she gets a child from me, I will leave home. So he was not very much interested to spend a long time in what is called Grihastha Ashram, living as family man. He was more concerned, okay, doing his duty. And there's just two verses in the Bhagavatam where he says this. Here he states the condition that, okay, when she receives a child from me, he was concerned with mainly actually one child only. At the end they got more, but he was first just mentioning one child and saying, for me the supreme authority is the creator Narayan or Vishnu. He's the supreme authority and also my supreme goal, the creator of this whole beautiful creation. Mentioning that because the authority between that would be Brahma. Brahma as the father entrusted him or instructed him to be a Prajapati. That means the expectation was that he actually produces offspring that populate, or good offspring that populates the universe. And so this statement of Kardama Muni reflects actually a very important principle also for a spiritualist who wants to leave behind so-called material duties or occupations. This can only then happen if there's true attachment or genuine attraction to the service of the Lord. This would justify that you just not enter a certain duty, but not simply because you feel, oh, it's too troublesome or whatever. These kind of renunciation is also rejected in the Bhagavad Gita. In the 18th chapter, Krishna speaks about different types of renunciation. And he says, the person who renounces a duty because it appears too troublesome is actually renouncing only in the mode of passion, whereas another person out of indifference or like complete ignorance does not perform duties. He is in tamas or ignorance. So Kardama Muni stated that wanting to fulfill, of course, the duty he has toward Brahma, but also establishing there's a higher duty than that, and this is like to be eternal. Establish your eternal service relationship with the Lord. This is even above that. So it was agreed, okay, that will be the condition, and then they got married. So Kardama Muni, being a Brahmin living very renounced, of course, could not offer Devahuti a palace and all that, what she was used to. So she actually adjusted to his lifestyle. That's again another aspect of Vedic living. One must maybe say even ancient Vedic living, or like also even this happens on a higher platform, on a higher sphere. These personalities are on a demigod level. They're not like ordinary humans. Still, they act in this varna and ashram system. So she became also very renounced. It's actually said she accepted the same vows as Kardama Muni. That's something also interesting. It's not that she just whatever was on the side in no way equal to the husband or like completely inferior. The opposite, actually, in order to be qualified to be her wife, she must have been capable to perform this type of austerity he did. You know, this involves fasting, this involves sacrifices, this involves chanting mantras and so on and so on. So and she was capable to serve him properly and assist him also in all these activities for a long time. So she also became very thin, and because they, based on the vows, they also did not bathe much and so on. So she was actually very also covered by dirt, and her hairs was very matted and so on. So at some point, she also felt, well, it would be time that my husband also fulfills his duty. And like, since I'm a woman, we are married and we are supposed to have children. So, and she addressed Kardama Muni in this regard. And Kardama Muni then, of course, agreed to fulfill her desire, because he was also very satisfied, saying, yeah, you served me so faithfully, and you're truly how to say, fit to beget children. So I would like to share also a slide with you in which there's the famous palace that actually Kardama Muni manifested then, because she requested him not only that they have a child, of course she requested him, please also find or arrange for a suitable house. You know, it's not like, does not work for like, maybe ask any woman if she would be willing to have a child with you while you live on the road, more or less. Maybe there are people nowadays, hippies, who do that, but generally this is not very inviting to a wife. So what he did, by his mystic power, he manifested in the air this gigantic palace, which was very glorious. This was like a city almost, which had all the sublime metals and stones, gems, how to say, decorating the walls and being of most divine architecture. There were perfectly arranged gardens with the most sublime fruits, and so on and so on. So this palace was most sublime. So, and also then she looked at it and still was she appeared kind of sad, or like not satisfied to Kardama Muni, and he noticed, he could see her mind. Of course, she was in a condition that is not very much suitable for now enjoying within a household. So he also, by his mystic power, manifested many maidservants for her. There were also Gandharvas, like heavenly girls and singers. And they accompanied Devahuti to take a bath, and then they dressed her and they took care of her, gave her very nice food, so that she could restore, so to speak, her beautiful feminine condition that she had before, like performing such severe austerities. So, and what then happened, they decided to enjoy their life. Kardama Muni was not externally appearing, it is described that he enjoyed that very much, but he never lost his focus on spiritual realization. So he was not carried away by the enjoyment, because then this palace, it could travel, and they traveled through all like heavenly areas where all the great demigods also sport with their consorts and where they enjoy material life. And so they went on and on to do that, and they didn't notice, or like Devahuti did not notice, how much time passed. Actually, it went very fast. So then Kardama Muni at some point, and with Devahuti, they came back to the place where the hermitage is, and then it is described that he manifested 9 forms. It is described that the jiva in the liberated state has the mystic ability to become 9 different personalities. Krishna can expand unlimitedly. This we know, like Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, Anantarupam. It's like in the Brahma Samhita, one of the verses describing the different qualities of Krishna. Advaitam, Anadim is like the beginningless. Advaita is the one, like how to say, undivided. And then Anantarupam, limitless forms emanate from him. So, and the jiva, or the living entity, the soul, has the capacity to do that 9 times. One difference also is that the expansions of a jiva or living entity, they cannot act very independently. They are like they're practically under the same umbrella of control they act, whereas the forms of Krishna can, of course, be completely independent from one another. So expanded like this, and also to enjoy a sex life with Devahuti. It's also described in the palace. There was a bed, a very wonderful bed, that had the capacity to increase sexual desire. Like we must understand the higher planetary systems. They offer a different level of sensual experience. Now we have on Earth, or like maybe lower, we have very limited capacity of senses and mind and so on. Whereas on the higher planetary systems, this capacity for enjoyment is way higher. Their bodies are differently constructed and so on. So it's described that then in these 9 forms, they spent 100 years actually. It's the description, the verse is like Devahuti did not notice how 100 autumns actually passed while they were enjoying with another. And at one point in that enjoyment, rather at the end, it's described how Kardama Muni released 9 times semen within the womb of Devahuti. And here some very fascinating thing is, besides that they're like it's 9-fold, Devahuti got pregnant with 9 girls, and within 1 day they took also birth. Practically immediately. Maybe there must be a consideration of higher planetary systems. A day is very longer than what we consider a day. But yeah, it's the Bhagavatam translation we have mentions 1 day. So Devahuti gave birth to 9 daughters who were all very sublime, had very beautiful features, and they said their fragrance was like of very beautiful, how to say, I think a particular flower is mentioned. So they were very, how to say, divine in their appearance. And in this context, also Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport the reason why we're girls and not boys, or like how, according to some Smriti Shastra and also Ayurveda Shastra, it is said that like the amount of secretion that comes from the woman and the man respectively decides over whether it becomes a boy or a girl. If the man releases or like more secretion, if the sperm is dominant, so to say, it becomes a man. If then on the woman's side the secretions is more prominent or like bigger, then it becomes a girl. So that from this is concluded that actually Devahuti was more aroused or more in the sex enjoyment, so therefore she received girls. And so Kardama Muni, considering, okay, now she has children, the deal was, as soon as children I can leave, and he was about to. And Devahuti looked at him and also, in one sense, smiled, but internally she was very distressed, thinking, okay, now I have 9 daughters, and in due course they will be married. She was anyway equipped with a nice house. It was by itself existing, this whole palace with the servants and everything. So Kardama Muni provided, actually. He was not just leaving her with nothing. She was equipped with a lot. But she considered, who will be my shelter? Whom will I be with? And that would be also, again, the Vedic culture, that when the father leaves, and then provided there is a son, if there's no son, this cannot work, but ideally there should be a son where the mother would be taken care of, and so on. So this way, that would be the system. And then there was, she expressed that to Cardinal Mooney, and he assured her that the Supreme Lord himself will soon also take birth through her. And she was instructed also to perform austerity, and again for a long time, after many years, she received the Lord. And this is to be found then in the, I should shortly open it. Chapter 24 of the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. It said here, after many, many years, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Madhusudana, the killer of the demon Madhu, having entered the semen of Kardama, appeared in Devahuti just as fire comes from wood in a sacrifice. So this is text number 6 from chapter 24, and I would like to read you the purport. The saying here, Srila Prabhupada writes, it is clearly stated here that the Lord is always the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although he appeared as the son of Kardama Muni. Fire is already present in wood, but by a certain process, fire is kindled. Similarly, God is all-pervading. He is everywhere, and since he may come out from everything, he appeared in his devotees' semen. Just as an ordinary living entity takes his birth by taking shelter of the semen of a certain living entity, the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts the shelter of the semen of his devotee and comes out as his son. This manifests his full independence to act in any way, and it does not mean that he is an ordinary living entity forced to take birth in a certain type of womb. Lord Nrsimha appeared from the pillar of Hiranyakashipu's palace. Lord Varaha appeared from the nostril of Brahma, and Lord Kapila appeared from the semen of Kardama, but this does not mean that the nostril of Brahma or the pillar of Hiranyakashipu's palace or the semen of Kardama Muni is the source of the appearance of the Lord. The Lord is always the Lord. So this is one of the very important theological and philosophical points in the Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, or generally Vaishnava philosophy. Krishna is not produced, nor any of his forms are produced by material energy. He might use a certain material element, like in this sense now the semen, as an agent for his appearance, but it's not that he comes from that or is being created from that. This is one of the rare, if not the only, even, wasn't aware of anything else, any other incident, the only form where it is described that he indeed manifests from the semen of the devotees. Usually it's by mystic transference from one pure mind of the male devotee to the pure mind of the female devotee without intercourse, but here he chose to appear to intercourse. So this is an important point of the Vaishnava philosophy, that Krishna or Vishnu is always transcendental and in no way being manifested by material nature. She's manifested by him. So, and when he then appeared, of course, the demigods came to witness, and also Lord Brahma was there, and I just have to find this one verse. Yes, he is describing a very essential feature of Lord Kapila-Dev by which he is to be recognized. Lord Brahma says here in text 17 of chapter 24, by mystic yoga and the practical application of knowledge from the scriptures, Kapila Muni, who is characterized by his golden hair, his eyes just like lotus petals, and his lotus feet, which bear the marks of lotus flowers, will uproot the deep-rooted desire for work in this material world. So this is one of the characteristics that we will also see now in a slide. Golden hair and of course lotus eyes, but also on his feet he has it said lotus flowers. Here we see one picture the golden hair. This is also Cardinal Muni. We will come to that. So he appeared there and also then made a mission statement. This is to be found, just give me a second, in verse 36 of the same chapter. Because also Lord Kapila-Dev came out and was practically immediately grown up. Immediately, he did not have to go through childhood in that sense. He says here, my appearance in this world is especially to explain the philosophy of Sankhya, which is highly esteemed for self-realization by those desiring freedom from the entanglement of unnecessary material desires. So here Lord Kapila-Dev states very clearly his own reason, or main reason for appearing, and this is that he will explain the philosophy of Sankhya, which is called the analytical study of the material world, and it's a very intellectual process. Of course, it's also not be correct to say Sankhya philosophy also means being engaged in practical bhakti yoga, and in this way developing the consciousness by which one can actually understand Sankhya philosophy. Yes. And we will come to that later in more detail. So now Kapila-Dev was there, and Cardinal Muni could get back to his original intent to retire from family life. And the picture we just saw is exactly about that. Here we see Cardinal Muni taking leave, and he actually directly went to Kapila-Dev, his son, and asking permission that he can now retire. He expressed, okay, I fulfilled my duty, my wife is provided for, she has now also a son, so may I leave? And Kapila-Dev blessed him and saying, yes, you may leave. And of course instructed him in more transcendental knowledge, and also assured him that he will be able to always see Vishnu within his heart, because he was a very advanced devotee. So here Cardinal Muni is leaving. So now Kapila-Dev also said to Cardinal Muni that he will also now instruct his mother Devahuti in transcendental knowledge. And there, the chapter 25, 6, I think even 7, they deal with that. And we see here, I want to show another picture, because there's some beautiful illustrations on that. Here we see the famous picture where Kapila-Dev is instructing his mother Devahuti within the palace they had. And we see here Kapila-Dev with the golden hair, which is one of his main features. And yeah, he has marks on his feet, on the soles, and so on. Yes, Sankhya philosophy essentially is about distinguishing the material from what is spiritual, or the individual spirit soul, what is transcendence, from that what is illusion or Maya. And Kapila-Dev first instructed rather about a devotional service, the glories, and he explains, in a conditioned state, the living entity is being drawn to sense enjoyment and serving the senses, sensual activity, and dedicates its activities there and feels attracted based on the false ego. When though this attraction is just transferred to the Supreme Lord, and when engages one's senses and endeavors in the service of the Lord, this is called devotional service. So the activity remains, but the object and motive of action changes. So we don't become just inactive in that sense. So this is what Kapila-Dev is instructing. And we will hear now a bit more from the philosophy, unless so far there would be any comments or questions. Also, those who are on Facebook and listening, please feel free to write or share any comments you might have or questions. And I will see that I can also check them. So it seems so far there is no. Just give me another second here. All right, then I'm going to continue to read from chapter 26. This is called Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. And here Kapila-deva gives us a gradual, or leads us gradually through how the material nature actually manifests. And this is a very fascinating process. We start here with text number 10. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the unmanifested eternal combination of the three modes is the cause of the manifest state and is called pradhan. It is called Prakriti when in the manifested stage of existence. So in the Vedic context, matter, of course, but not just in the Vedic context, generally also in science, we know it's a form of energy that transforms from most subtle forms to more gross forms that become what we consider manifest matter or gross matter. And the most subtle state as Mahatattva is the beginning state, transferring to pradhan. These terms are also used synonymously. So pradhan and Mahatattva sometimes. Simply describing it as unmanifest means they're not pulled together yet. They're like loose in a most subtle state and then become more gross and combined and manifested. And then it's called Prakriti. And this is also one of the essential topics of the Bhagavad Gita. There it is rather, how to say, comprised or like in a very short way discussed. And this is the introduction to the teaching in this chapter where we are now. And it describes further the aggregate elements, namely the 5 gross elements, the 5 subtle elements, the 4 internal senses, the 5 senses for gathering knowledge, and the 5 outward organs of action are known as the pradhan. So this is the, so to say, the basic ingredients or like what material energy contains. Their gross elements, the 5 is earth, water, fire, air, and ether. In terms of development, it starts with ether, goes from subtle to gross. We will hear about that. 5 subtle elements, they will also be listed. They're here, the 5 subtle elements: smell, taste, color, touch, and sound. They correspond also to the gross elements, and they actually come first. Or better, the subtle element is manifested from where the gross element comes. From sound, ether is manifested. So sound is also the characteristic of ether, or like sometimes it said sky. So this is the most subtle element that permeates everything. And in this, there is also like sound is said to be that what makes it possible to recognize a thing. By sound, like this is also the Shabda Pramana, or like the sound vibration, gives us actually an image ultimately of what is the thing that we talk about. From there, there's a transformation. It is explained that in the Brahma Samhita we hear that Mahavishnu is glancing at this Mahatattva or pradhan, and his glance has the function of making this whole transformation possible. There's this energy from the outside. Material energy is itself passive. And with his glance, he also sends Kala Shakti, the time factor, and is explained that through this influence, through his glance and Kala Shakti, these transformations that we are hearing about now are made possible. So matter is moved by spirit. it doesn't produce spirit. On the contrary, it is produced by spirit. He describes here further the senses for acquiring knowledge and the organs for action number 10, namely the auditory sense, the sense of taste, the tactile sense, the sense of sight, the sense of smell, and the active organs for speaking, working, traveling, generating, and evacuating. So all in all, there would be 24 elements. It's also here said the internal subtle senses are experiences having 4 aspects in the shape of mind, intelligence, ego, and contaminated consciousness. Distinctions between them can be made only by different functions since they represent different characteristics. So we have a gross and a subtle body, and all these things together constitute the core ingredients of the basic ingredients of the material world, and everything we see is a mixture of all these elements. And here the term is used, all these are considered the qualified Brahman, means spiritual energy that suddenly becomes equipped with so-called material qualities, therefore qualified Brahman. The mixing element, which is known as time, is counted as the 25th element. And Kapila-deva explains here that this time factor is the cause of fear of death, which is experienced due to the false ego of the deluded soul, and is actually representing the Supreme Lord. So from the elements, we heard already that it goes from subtle to gross, and each element that comes as an evolution or evolves from another includes the qualities of its origin. So first we have ether and sound, or sky, and from which comes sound. Then also the sense of hearing is manifested from there. Ultimately also a particular demigod that resides over the sense. So all these things are manifest, and through the transformation of time and the glance of Mahavishnu, that is the 3 modes of nature, is a whole mixing. From there comes air. So air is an element that allows for touch, and it's one of its features also is strength. And then also in air we have sound and touch. So since it comes from ether, this element prior to the transformed element is manifest in there. And then through further transformation of this Mahatattva, or this element of air, through time and Mahavishnu's glance, then fire is manifested. And fire manifests the possibility or the sense of seeing light, that you can perceive things with your eyes. And fire in itself has different functions later on in the manifestation, also digestive fire, and also speech. As said, also comes the fire makes it possible that these things manifest. And it contains sound, it contains touch, or touch, and now also form. It is visible. So, and then by further transformation of fire, water is being manifested. Water brings with it the the capacity for I forgot the word, taste. Yeah, the taste is possible then by water. So water then contains sound, water contains touch, form, and now also taste. And then also, for example, air is also distinguished between pure, acidic, foul, and this and that. So different types of airs, all the types of gases, for example. So in each element, of course, there's a whole variety of things. And now we are with water. And also from there, different types of manifestations of water. There are all kinds of possible liquids or subliquids come from there. And then by further transformation, the earth element is manifested, which now additionally has the smell or aroma with it. So now in Earth, there is to be found the sound, the touch, the form, the taste, and now also the smell. So Earth actually includes all the other elements and their characteristics. So this way, there's from subtle to gross, a whole hierarchy. And in spiritual transformation, it's interesting, you hear sometimes, like for example, Maharaj Yudhishthira, when he renounces his body, that this process is then turned around, that you go from gross to more and more subtle. It's in a mystic way is explained how like all these elements gradually backwards as they evolved into the gross form, they or dissolve again into the most subtle form by the accomplished transcendentalists. They said the cause of all elements is actually the false ego. Kapila-Dev describes here in text 23 to 24, the material ego springs up from the Mahatattva, which evolved from the Lord's own energy. The material ego is endowed predominantly with active power of three kinds: good, passionate, and ignorant. It is from these three types of material ego that the mind, the senses of perception, the organs of action, and the gross elements evolve. And that the threefold ahankara, the source of the gross elements, the senses and the mind, is identical with them because it is their cause. Again, like we have the cause is within the effect, a bit like genetics, like what we inherit is already there, of course, in the cause, and we carry it with us, or like with the elements as we just heard it. So let me go a bit further here. Because it's quite elaborate and certainly it's a matter of study where we should invest some time and energy to go through. Yes, it said, when all these elements that we heard of were unmixed, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the origin of creation, along with time, work, and the qualities of the mode of material nature, entered into the universe with a total material energy in 7 divisions. From these 7 principles, roused into activity and united by the presence of the Lord, an unintelligent egg arose from which appeared the celebrated cosmic being. So what is described here is the raw form of the universe, which in the Brahma Samhita or like in other scriptures we hear, this comes from the skin pores of Mahavishnu while he exhales. All the universes in their raw form come out of there, and they expand to a certain degree during the exhaling of Mahavishnu. And then again, when he's inhaling, all these elements enter, like the universes enter into his body. So he said an unintelligent egg arose, and within it a celebrated cosmic being. This is referred to here as the Virat Rupa, which is the idea how like when Vishnu takes a material form, which he actually doesn't, but the universe is being looked at as a form of the Lord, the cosmic being. And as described further, the universal egg, or the universe in the shape of an egg, is called the manifestation of material energy. Its layers of water, air, fire, sky, ego, and Mahatattva increase in thickness one after another. So this is further explained also in other parts of the Bhagavatam. This universal egg becomes also on the outside surrounded by these different types of element in the hierarchical order that actually earth comes first. Here it is not mentioned. In other places it is mentioned that there is earth, and then this is 10 times as big as the diameter of the universe, which is like measured by 4 billion miles. So it's a huge surrounding of the universe with a layer of element, and then following water, fire, and then air, and then sky, that these are each 10 times bigger than the other. Here in this list, we find water, air, fire, sky, and ego. Matattva, there are different types of creation reports that might it's referred a bit differently. So, and the final outside layer is covered by pradhan, which is the most subtle form of energy. Within this egg is the universal form of Lord Hari, of whose body the 14 planetary systems are parts. And here there's Garbhodakasha Vishnu. We hear from the creation reports that, of course, Vishnu enters this egg, this unintelligent egg, and out of his own spiritual potency, he floats within the air first on Anantashesh, the snake bed, and by his perspiration, he fills the ocean of the universe, or like the space of the universe, half with water. And then from his lotus, or from his navel, stems the lotus flower, on which later Brahma is born. And there's already a system where the different planetary systems, or 7 words or something, 14 words actually, where they are being placed. Then he is further said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Virat Purusha, situated himself in that golden egg, which was lying on the water, and he divided it into many departments. First of all, a mouth appeared in him, and then came forth the organ of speech, and with it the god of fire, the deity who preside over that organ. Then a pair of nostrils appeared, and in them appeared the olfactory sense as well as prana, the vital air. So here we see then from that Virat Purusha came different sensual capacities. Again, like from him, he manifested first the sense, and then also the function of the sense, mouth, and then the speech. And with the god of fire, we mentioned before that fire is actually also responsible for the ability to speak. The deity who presides over that organ, yes, then a pair of nostrils, then appeared the olfactory sense that we can smell, also prana, the vital air. So in the wake of the olfactory sense came the wind god who presides over that sense. Thereafter a pair of eyes appeared in the universal form, and in them the sense of sight. And in the wake of the sense came the sun god who presides over it. So fire god for speech, sun god for vision. So fire has these two aspects. Next there appeared in him a pair of ears, and in them the auditory sense, in its wake the Dik-devatas, or the deities who preside over the directions. Then he manifested a skin, thereupon the hair, mustache, and a beard appeared. After all, the herbs and drugs became manifested, and then his genitals also appeared. After this, semen and the god who presides over the waters appeared. And this is Varuna. Next appeared the anus and the organs of defecation, and thereupon the god of death is called Mitra, who is feared throughout the universe. Thereafter, the 2 hands of the universal form of the Lord became manifested, and with them the power of grasping and dropping things. And after that, Lord Indra appeared, who is the deity over that function. Next, the legs became manifested, and with them the process of movement. And after that, Lord Vishnu appeared. So this description is it's very abstract, because to understand like what form are we talking about here. So this is an issue that is also a matter of contemplation and meditation. What should be understood is usually that Vishnu, of course, all these things emanate from him, from his personal body, and that God is a person. Nothing is just impersonal energy, and that all what we perceive here in terms of senses and sensual capacities originate from the original person in his body, and he manifests accordingly also a so-called material body, from which he provides all the jivas in this material world that they can actually attain a material body, which interestingly isn't governed by them at all, although we think that. So all the demigods are in charge of that, but actually Vishnu controls the demigods. So this is one of the big illusions in this world, that we actually control things and own things. Yes, and this analytical study is supposed to make us aware of who is actually the origin of everything that exists. How does it exist? Why does it exist? And what is my position in regards to the supreme creator and possessor of everything? And there's the story here. When everything was manifested, all the gods with their respective functions, as we heard already, they tried to wake that Purusha, that being, and all of them, one after another, entered again into that form, and they tried to animate the form with their own genuine capacities. For example, the sun god entered the eyes of the Purusha with a sense of sight, but still the Purusha did not get up. So they wanted to activate him, moving where it didn't. And each demigod tried, and it didn't succeed unless when Vishnu entered the deity also of consciousness, then the cosmic being, Virat Purusha, finally awoke. And I will see the verse here. Where am I sleeping? Sri Kapila-avatāra says, when a man is sleeping, all his material assets, namely the vital energy, the senses for recording knowledge, the senses for working the mind, and the intelligence cannot arouse him. He can be aroused only when the supersoul helps him. Therefore, through devotion, detachment, and advancement in spiritual knowledge, acquired through concentrated devotional service, one should contemplate that supersoul as present in this very body, although simultaneously apart from it. So this is essential to understand. Only when Vishnu is there, when he activates the material energy, then it works. We, by our power, we can try as we want, but everything depends on the Supreme Lord. And the very name Vishnu means the one who pervades or permeates everything and activates and controls everything within this universe. It's his energy, and it depends on him. We as living entities depend also on the energy of the Lord. He exists because of him and through him, and therefore he's actually considered to be the actual proprietor of everything and not us. Because the argument is the one from whom it comes and on whom it depends, that is the true owner of something, not us. All right, so these were quite a few informations from the Bhagavatam, more this analytical detail. Are there any comments or questions on that from any one of you? Also, if you want on Facebook, you can share. Maybe you can also contemplate on what's stuck most with you from today's Katha of Lord Kapila-avatāra. We spoke about the appearance of the Lord, how it came, how the parents, Devotee and Kardama Muni, and then some essential features in terms of how Kapila-avatāra was instructing Sankhya philosophy. All right.
Just one observation, Prabhuji. Generally, it is said that avatars come down on earth to establish peace, law and order. Would that be correct? When there's a great disturbance on earth,
yes,
that's when the avatars come. Now, looking at today's challenging times on earth, is it not a real good time for some avatar to appear and do something?
Yeah.
The earth's in a mess.
Well, yeah, it is. And it's certainly a relevant argument to bring up. So where's Krishna now, like, isn't there now need for that? And we see also, even when in other ages, even like when we look at the Ram Leela, Prajapatis, Ravan had quite a long time where he could cause havoc, where he could do his thing, or like with Hiranyakashipu put the same, or with others. There's always a time in which they can act, and then at some point Vishnu interfered. In this age, though, he's already there, but in a different shape. We hear, for once, there's the literal, or how to say, literary incarnation in form of the Srimad Bhagavatam. When we consider Krishna to be present in his book form, and even more important, present in his name, that we say God can be accessed to the holy name, to chanting Krishna's names. Chanting means also consciously singing, and in this way you connecting with Krishna, and that make Krishna also part of one's life, invite him to also interfere, to bless, to support, and to also gain protection from the influence of Kali. Because what Krishna also does is he says, okay, I arranged for a particular way of how things go, the cyclic, like the seasons. He will not skip any season for anyone. There will always be winter. At some point we have to go through, if you like it or not. And so there's Kali Yuga, if you like it or not, it will be there. But he made already a special thing. It said, like, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu initiated, or like inaugurated, whatever, how it's proper termed, a golden age. It's supposed to last for 10,000 years, in which the effects of Kali Yuga will still be checked to a big degree. Although we have quite a very heavy stuff going on. So at the same time, also very spiritual. Like, you can see there's a spiritual uprising in the world at the same time. So it's a strong contrast, but it happens simultaneously. Similarly, when Vishnu is there, or Krishna, there are powerful demons around. They do all this horrible stuff. At the same time, Krishna is there, and it gradually takes over. Like this.
So can we say that chanting is the best remedy?
It's recommended, yeah. It's clearly outlined that for the Kali Yuga, there's only one good quality. The Kali Yuga is compared in the 12th canto with an ocean of faults. And it said the only good quality is the chanting of the holy name. It's the only thing we can hold on to.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All right, then I would say let's conclude here for today. Thank you very much for participating, and looking forward to see you in another session. I think for now we'll conclude the Avatar series at that point, and there are certainly many other series that might be interesting. If you have any also desires or requests or ideas, please let me know. Also, please feel free to comment on the holistic spirituality videos and postings. And wishing you a very Krishna conscious evening. Hare Krishna.